in the last class, we are looking at match case, and then I showed you how to write the match case in a global scope. But in my introduction, I told you I was also going to show you the match case inside the function. But I didn't want the video to be too long, so I had to cut it. So in this class now, I'm going to show you how to introduce the match case into what? A function. And then I'll teach you some other things again that you can also do with match case. I'm going to define a function and then introduce the match case inside the function. So define weekday, right? That is the function name. And then, so I'm going to supply a parameter to it and call it n. So here now, I'm going to bring in the match n, and then case. So for the first case, now case 0. Now in this case now, I am going to use the return keyword. Now, when I declared this match case, when I did this match case in the global scope, I was using print function to display my output. But in this function that I am defining, what you will use to return the output of the function to the calling function is the return keyword, right? Not print. Return Monday. Case 1. Now, I can write this on a straight line like this. I can do it this way. Return Tuesday. Case 2. Return Wednesday. Case 3. Return Thursday. Okay. Let me just leave it there. Then the underscore, return invalid day, right? I can just leave it this way. Now, this is my function. So I have defined a function, which is what? Weekday. And then this function is expecting a parameter, which is one parameter n. And then when that parameter comes, it will now go into this place, and then the match will check it, and then go in and check all the cases. Anyone that matches the argument that we supplied into this will now return whatever value that is in front of it. So now, this is a function that you have defined. So now, I'm going to call the function. So I will say print, right? And then I will call the function. So the function is weekday. That is the function. And then I will supply what? So I'm calling this function weekday. And then I'm going to supply the argument to it, which will now be given to this parameter. So the argument I'm going to supply now is 3. Right? So when I execute this now, it's going to supply this parameter. So I'm calling weekday, and then I'm going to supply this argument to it. So it will now take this argument, place it inside this parameter, which is what? 3. And then it will now go in and give it to this. Then it will go in and check the cases. Anyone that matches this, it will return that value. So here now it's going to return Thursday when I execute it. So this is the function, right? And then I'm calling the function here. So I'm going to execute this. Now, let's say, wait, before I do that. Now, this is a function that I've defined. I'm going to execute this function, so it will be created, it will be kept in the library. So you see, process finished with exit code. So the function has been created. Now I'm going to call that function print weekday, and then I'm going to supply 3 to it. So I will execute. Now it's going to print out Thursday. See, Thursday. Now I can change this to 0 to print out Monday. To print out Monday. I can change this to 1. It will print out Tuesday. So you see, it print out Tuesday. So that is that. I can make it give you the output at runtime by just calling the input function again. And then, since this is integer, I'm going to typecast it int, then input function, and then I will say enter value here, right? So I'm going to execute this. I'm calling this weekday, but first there's an input function which is going to display this enter value here on the screen, expecting me to enter a value. So the moment I enter the value, to typecast it into integer and then give it to this weekday function, and it will execute. So I'm going to execute this again. So it's telling me to enter value. Let me do this. Now it's already running, so it's going to ask me to end the program when I try to execute it again. So stop and run. All right, so it's asking me to enter value. So I'm just going to enter 2, and then I will press enter. So it will print out Wednesday. Now when I run it again, enter another value again, I'm going to enter 7. And then I'll press enter. It will print out invalid day. See, invalid day. So that is it. You create a function, and then you are calling that function and supplying a value to it. But in this case now, I'm going to supply the function, the value at runtime. So the input function is first and foremost going to display this enter value on the screen. And then I will enter the value. It will typecast it to an integer. I told you in one of the classes that any value that you supplied to the input function in Python will be taken in as a string. So if you don't typecast it and the value that you are expecting is an integer, it will throw you an error. So that's why I have to typecast this to an integer, because what I'm expecting is an integer. That will be the pattern that will be used in this match case is an integer. So that's why I'm typecasting it to this to give me this output. All right, so that is match case. Now I want to introduce a list as an argument to the case, right? So that's what I want to do. And let's say you want to tell somebody, good morning, John, right? Now, how do you say that and how do you bring it out? And then if you are going to write a program that will say, good morning, John, good morning, Etete, good morning, Fon, good morning, Ediete, how do you display this on the screen? So it's a pattern, and that is where this match case can be used to achieve that. So let me write, I'm going to create a function here, and that function is what? Greeting. So I'm going to say define greeting, right? And now this greeting is expecting details, right? So now I'm going in and then match. So this match, I'm going to supply the details to it. So I will go in the first case. So the case now, I'm supplying a list. I want to supply a list to the case. So the list I'm going to supply to this case, this is a list. So I'll supply time and name. Okay. So what I want the system to do is I'm going to call a function. This is what will happen. This is what I want to achieve. I will still come back to complete that. What I want to achieve is this: print And then I'll call the function, which is what? Greetings. So I'll call greetings. See, I'm jumping. I already know what I want to achieve. So I'm writing the end of what I want to achieve, that is calling the function, to go back. Then I will now go back and complete the function, so that you'll be able to see where I am going to. So I'm calling using the print function, and then I'm calling the function greeting, right? This is the function name, greeting. I'm calling it. So I'm supplying a list to it, and the first one will be morning, and then the other one will be name, which is name. So, right? So this is what I want. Now, the next one I want to do is I want to supply something like this. Greeting, I'm calling it again. I will explain. Then here, I will say afternoon, right? Afternoon. Then phone, that is the first name. So here, I will say John. And then here, I will say Ediete. Now, in this one, I am calling this greeting because it's a function that I want to create. So once I create this function and I save it, so I will call the function and supply this morning and John to it. And I expect it to print out good morning, John. Then I will call the function again and supply afternoon, Mfon, John, and Ediete. And I want it to print out good afternoon, Mfon, good afternoon, John, good afternoon, Ediete. So I will now have 4 lines. Good morning, John. Good afternoon, Phone. Good afternoon, John. Good afternoon, Data. 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is what I want to achieve. Now, let's see how I'm going to achieve that using a function with a match case inside of it. So now I'll come back here to complete my function. So what I will do is case time. So I am supplying this morning and John. This is it as a case. Now I will go in. What do I want it to do? I want it to return. So it's going to return good morning. So now what I want to achieve now is that I will now introduce a format string. I've taught format string in one of my classes. So this is a format string. This, and then you will put curly brace inside. Now this is a format string. What this format string will do is whatever it is, I'm asking this return keyword to return whatever it is that is here to what? To the calling function, which is what? To this print function. So that is what it's going to do. Now, here now, I am going to say good. Then I will attach this curly bracket to it this way. And inside it, I'm going to put time. So this time, which is what? The case time name. I'm supplying a list to the case. So when I supply this list to it, which is what? Morning and John. So this morning will go to time, John will go to name. Then it will enter into the case and return whatever expression I'm going to put here. So what is going to return is what? Is a string, a format string. So this format string is going to return good. Then this expression that is inside, because of this curly bracket, will replace this time with what? Morning. And then I'll do another one, which is what? Name. So this one will replace this name with John, right? That is what it's going to replace. So here, I just want to put an exclamation mark, right? So it's just a greeting. Good morning, John. That is what this one will do. If I execute it, that is what it will do. So this one will be for this first one that I'm calling. Now for this second one that I'm calling, I want to also write the function. So I will come back here. It will be the second case. So I will say case, Then I'm going to supply it again, time. Now, I am going to do something here. I'm going to supply another type of operator inside this place to enable me achieve this iteration that I want to do. So what am I going to supply here will be what? I will use this operator. Now, this is an unpack operator. When you use this star inside the function, is to unpack what is inside here. That is what I am doing here. So I'm going to supply name to it. Now, I am writing this here, which is what? This is the list that I'm going to supply to this case. All right, so this case now, I will go in. Because I want my output to give me good morning, John. Good afternoon, Mfon. Good afternoon, John. Good afternoon, Ediete. On different lines. So I will have 1, 2, 3, 4. I will have 4 lines. I want that to happen. Now, in order for me to iterate this, I need to introduce a for loop. So inside this my case, I'm going to introduce a for loop. But before then, the first thing I need to do is I will declare a variable. So I will declare a variable. I will call that variable salutation. Right? Salutation. And then I will assign an empty value to it, which is this. So I call a variable salutation and I assign an empty value to it. Then I will now come here. I will create a for loop for name in names, right? I will go in, I will explain that. And then what am I going to do? I will now bring in this salutation, what I want to achieve equals, I'm calling this concatenation. So I'm going to concatenate this salutation. So my format string again, I'm going to bring the format string like this, and I will say good time, and then again I will put name. I will explain. So I'll put my exclamation mark, and then I will call something which is what? A new line character. So I'll put this here, new line character. Then I will come here and say return salutation. All right, so I'm going to return this. So this is my script. So this is the function. This is the function that I've created. So I'm going to explain this function. I am saying that I want a function because I'm going to supply a list, right? To my what? To my case is a list, because Python can allow me supply any value, right, to the case. So in this case now I'm going to supply a list. Now, greetings, I'm defining a function, greetings, and the parameter that this function needs is what? Called details. Now, when I go into this function, I will now match the details as against this pattern. So match details, you go in. The first case is expecting what? A list. So I'm giving a list. I'm supplying a list. This list is just one argument, which is this. You can see that is a list. So I'm supplying just one argument. Now it goes in, the whole of this, which is the whole of this morning John, is a list, which is going to be replaced for these details, and then it will go into the what? The function. And then match is going to check this list as against this case. So the first one is time, which is morning, time. The second one is what? John, which is what? Name. Now, if the first one, which I'm calling, is this, morning John, it will return this format string, good morning John. That is what it's going to do. The second one, I'm calling it again, because this second one now, I am having time, and then I'm having what? This operator. This operator is an unpack operator. So this unpack operator now is telling me that I'm expecting list an iterable name. So for me to be able to pull out this Mfon, pull out this John, pull out this Ediete, and then still supply it to this afternoon, that is why I'm creating a variable that is going to hold them. So this variable I'm supplying is empty. That's what it means, empty. So I'm using a for loop. A for loop, I'm now declaring another variable called name in names, which is these names. So inside this list, Mfon, John, Ediete, is these are three different variables, three different arguments that are going to be supplied to names. Then, using the for loop, it will iterate over this name. It will go into names, bring out the first one, put it here. This is concatenation operator. What it's doing is it will execute this first expression, put inside this salutation, execute it again, put it inside salutation, execute it again, put it. So this salutation is going to contain the three lines of expression, which is good afternoon, Mfon, good afternoon, John, good afternoon, Ediete. Then this returned keyword will return the complete salutation to what? To this calling function, which is print, and then to display it on the screen. So I'm going to execute it for you to see the output. So you see, it's giving me good morning, John. Good afternoon, Mfon. Good afternoon, John. Good afternoon, Ediete. That is exactly what I want to achieve. And look at the program that I have to write to achieve this. First, I have to write a function. Then inside this function, I'm writing the match case. But inside this one of my cases, I am introducing a for loop that is enabling me copy data out. In this simple script, I've introduced a function and I've also introduced a loop. So the next class that we are going to do now is going into this loop proper. So I'll show you loop, and when we finish control flow, we'll now go into function proper, where I'm going to explain to you this real concept. So if this class was helpful, don't forget to subscribe if you have not subscribed, and click on the like button, and also help to share the video. So till we see you in the loop class, bye bye.